Welcome to the Lavesh Show. My name is Lavesh, and I believe that I am your host. Or is Njabulo your host? That's probably something that may become a problem, seeing as though I'm supposed to be your host. Well, to aid in my quest to discuss Formula One, Njabulo is joining me on this episode to talk about some more Formula One news that I may have come across. Welcome, Njabulo, to the Lavesh Show.
Thank you for the warm welcome. My name is Njabulo, an avid F1 fan since for as long as I can remember.
Fantastic. Yeah. I read the other day that Toto Wolff believes that Mercedes has a chance to challenge Red Bull this season. That comes after revealing that their W15 is going to have almost all aspects changed on the car. Now, I know they managed to pull second place in the Constructors last season, but I mean, they were still a massive 451 points behind the Red Bull team. So,
Yes.
what do you think about the situation? Do you think Mercedes stands a chance?
Um, I think F1 is very unpredictable, but in terms of all these technical regulations and all of that, history has shown us. Remember with the turbo hybrid era, it started in 2014. Mercedes smashed it from the beginning until literally the end, which was at the end of 2021. And Red Bull were always playing second fiddle to them. They may have come close, yes, in 2021, but I don't think Mercedes will beat Red Bull until at least 2026. The reason for this is they started off on the back foot because if you remember in 2022, they came up with this concept of no side pods and all of that, thinking it'll work. So now Red Bull have had a very good car for 2 straight years. There's no reason why they shouldn't smash everyone again this year. And Merck essentially are starting their concept from scratch. I mean,
No, it's like
I'm not confident. Yeah, I think maybe a team that was promising, maybe McLaren has something up their sleeve, but with Mercedes, they'll still be up there. I agree, but only because Ferrari are screw ups. Because if you look at 2022, the first 6 months was Ferrari or Red Bull. Somehow Ferrari lost the plots and the Mercedes benefited from that. And even last year, that's why they finished in that position. So no, Mercedes won't beat Red Bull for this year. That's my prediction.
Uh, yeah, because especially with Ferrari, I always had a running joke. So I'm more a
Yes.
neutral on the sport. I don't necessarily support a team. So my running joke, everybody that asked me, okay, who do you support? It was like Ferrari, just because they keep on crashing. So yeah,
Yes.
um, yeah. Well, while we're on the topic of Mercedes, I see that
Yes.
technical director James Allison signed an extension to his contract. Now,
Yes. Yes.
since he joined the team, they've had 4 driver titles and 5 constructors championships before he got promoted to chief technical officer. Moving
Yes.
back into the role of technical director last year in April, and with the changes that are coming to the W15, do you think this extension would benefit the team?
If you look at the dominance since 2010, only Red Bull and Mercedes have won the championship. The reason for this is consistency. I think Christian Horner has been team principal since 2005, if I'm not mistaken, when Red Bull actually entered the sport. Toto has been team principal since 2013. Every other team has the team principal is there either for a year or 2 years. So I think the consistency will help them maintain their current trajectory. But I don't think, like I said earlier, it's a recipe for success. Look at Red Bull as well. Red Bull dominated for like 4 years with Sebastian Vettel. They were beating everyone. Adrian Newey was there. The 7 years when Merck won the Constructors' Championship, Adrian Newey was still at Red Bull, but they still couldn't win. So James Allison, like I said, in F1 things change over a long period of time. So I say they'll finish second or third depending on what the other teams do. But I admire their consistency. They'll stay a top team for the foreseeable future. That's my opinion.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Now, while we're
Yeah.
talking about this, contract extensions and things like that, um, how do you feel about Audi coming in 2026?
Um, remember F1. works hand in hand with the motor industry. Look at an instances with Red Bull. Red Bull did the Aston Martin Valkyrie, the car. Red Bull is gonna do a road car. I don't know if you heard about that, like a sports car
I
soon.
didn't actually.
So yeah, no, they're gonna do a car. I think maybe that's something we can speak about maybe later at some point. So to get an actual car manufacturer back into the sport, I think F1 should be dominated by car companies, because you look at it now, how many car companies are in F1 right now in the 10 teams? I think I can only count Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren. What else? I think that's it, you know?
Technically, if you want to count an engine, then you can count Honda. But
But
yeah,
but
I
but
get what
it's
you're
not a
saying.
works team. It's not a
Yeah,
team. So let it be representative of that, because I see Audi's coming back, with Ford also coming in, but only supplying engines to Red Bull. It'll grow the sport in a sense that it will be more commercially viable. So I'm happy with what Audi have done. The big thing that Audi did was take Andreas Seidel, the team principal at McLaren. It shows their intention to grow the sport and to be successful. So I think it can only be good for the sport. Yeah.
definitely.
So I'm happy that Audi is joining them. Yeah.
I always told everyone as well. The first team that I'm going to actually support is probably going to be Audi, just because I love their cars.
I'm not a fan of Audis, but that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, now moving on to Haas now. With Guenther
Yeah.
Steiner no longer being part of the team. Now, let's be honest here. Gene Haas said the reason he didn't want to renew Steiner's contract was due to performance. But in all reality, most people feel it's probably because Steiner gained a lot of traction and popularity for himself after the Drive to Survive series.
Yes.
And, well, as far as I can see, it was most likely jealousy from Gene that caused this. Then we
Yes.
have Steiner's replacement, Japanese engineer Ayao Komatsu. According to Komatsu, who has been with the team since its inception in 2016, the team will look at getting a chief operating officer to work alongside him during his tenure as principal, so he doesn't need to focus on marketing and things. Now, I don't know if that's going to work so great for the team, but it might actually be more beneficial splitting the role and having the principal focusing more on the actual racing concept. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I think cost is a disaster waiting to happen. We've seen in the past, if you don't invest in F1 is a money sport, unfortunately. It's look at how many talented drivers are in F2 who can't get through because of money. So you need to spend to be successful in F1. Gene has not been investing. He refuses to invest more money into the team. I foresee Andretti buying Haas, you know, because he can't come in and there's 11 team at the moment. Changing the team principles, the Guenther Steiner issue. I saw a rumor somewhere on Twitter. I'm not sure if it's true. It's alleged that Guenther wanted shares in the company, given it how popular Haas is because of him. And the lack of investment as well. So the jealousy angle, there must be some truth to it. In my opinion, big mistake letting go of Gunther Steiner. Because with the little that he has made some miracles with Haas, but eventually they'll finish last again this year and the next year. Nothing is going to
Yeah.
improve. They'll only keep getting worse. That's my opinion. Unless Gene invests or sells the team.
I say the same thing with like Premier League teams and that, sorry, I had to jump
Yeah.
to soccer there quickly. It's the same thing like with Manchester United, for example. They're
Yes. Yeah.
forever changing their managers and that they don't give the guys more than 5 years. But if you take
And panic
Liverpool, for
buys.
example, now
Yes.
I'm a big Liverpool fan, right? I'm diehard Liverpool. So if you look at Liverpool, for example, they gave Klopp a few um a few years, and then the team started performing. I mean, look at their current performance now. They're in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. They won their first leg of that. They're going to the second leg now. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's today or tomorrow. Um, yeah,
I think
and
it's
you look at
tomorrow. Yeah.
that.
Tomorrow.
You need to give the guys some time. You can't expect a miracle overnight.
Yes, it comes back to the points I was making with team principles as well, that only Toto and Christian have been there at the helm. Look at a team like Ferrari. Ferrari, arguably the most successful team in Formula One, just the name Ferrari, is synonymous with F1. But the constant chopping and changing doesn't help. Because if you look in the last 10 years, who was that guy? Arrivabene. He was there when Seb and Kimi were still driving for the team. He
Yeah.
essentially, it may be controversial, my comment, but I say Sebastian Vettel got Arrivabene fired because he fucked up. Excuse the language. He fucked up and he cost Ferrari the championship. Because if you remember the 2018 season, Sebastian Vettel, if it wasn't for the mistakes, especially in his home race in Germany, Ferrari would have won the championship. He would have kept his job. They brought in Mattia Binotto. Already there was a shaky foundation. There was nothing he could do. They brought in Fred Vasseur now. He won't change anything. It's what you're saying with consistency. Even with Red Bull, Horner stayed when Mercedes was smashing it for 7 or 8 years. There was never talks of, oh, no, let's fire Horner or anything. So the consistency is very important. And if you're going to keep chopping and changing, a good example is United as well. Look at the players as well. You sign a player, they don't perform for like 2 months, 3 months, we're already discrediting them and saying, oh no, there's a panic buy and all of that. You find teams like, look at Liverpool, for instance, your team, Liverpool. Look at a guy like Luis Diaz. Found him literally from nowhere. You gave him a chance. He's shining. Look at Klopp. How long is Klopp and Guardiola at Man City? Apart from Klopp and Guardiola, can you name any other manager who's been at the helm for 5 years in England?
No, that's true. That's true. It's very
And
difficult to find cases where they do that. I mean,
agree.
United
Yeah,
should be one team. You see where I think United's problem comes in is that they're trying to replicate Sir Alex Ferguson too quickly. I mean, with
agreed.
him, he's a typical example. They gave him 5 years, and only after that 5 years, he managed to get the team to where they were, and then they started growing from there. Now, if you
Yes,
don't
correct.
give the guy a chance with Formula One, Premier League, anything like that, it's not going to work. It really isn't. I mean, you can't expect something to happen overnight. If you do, you're living in a dream world.
Agreed, agreed. And the United issue, I think Haas essentially, in terms of their owners, it's the same as United. You'd rather be taking money out of the club instead of investing in it. The club won't grow. How will the club grow? How will Haas grow? Remember, even last year, that pit window of theirs, it was so small. It was like a shack, Haas, because they had to cut costs. It's such small things. Like, how do you
Yeah.
expect the car to be quicker if you're not going to put any money? And I saw Gene Haas making comments that they'll be relying heavily on Ferrari. They want a similar relationship with Ferrari, the same that Alpha Tauri or whatever they'll be called this year. What is it? I think it's Racing Bulls and Red Bull.
Uh, it's not yet confirmed, but yeah,
It's not confirmed. Yeah,
Racing
so
Bulls.
here, let's refer to them as Alpha Tauri just for now. It'll change.
Yeah.
What I saw is Alpha Tauri will be taking some components from last year's Red Bull. So Haas is looking for a similar type of relationship from Ferrari. It's not going to work out. Ferrari is not going to give them their parts.
No.
Unlike Red Bull, AlphaTauri is their team.
Hmm.
So I don't understand why Gene Haas doesn't want to invest. That's why I'm saying I don't think he'll make it even to 2026. He'll sell to under 30.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think 2026 we're gonna see quite a number of changes, eh? I really do.
Correct.
Um
Correct.
Now if we look at let's look at the teams. I mean, the drivers are the exact same as last year. It's the first time in history that we've had this. Now, I don't know if that's a good move or if it's a bad move. I know a lot of contracts and things are expiring next year and whatever, but
Yeah.
no changes. It's especially with certain teams' performances in that last season. I think there should have been some changes. I'm not too sure
Yeah.
about you though.
I think I think it would be easier. Let's start by the teams. Okay. Red Bull. I You shouldn't change anything there, really. Perez has that experience. I think he'll come right this year. He'll be more consistent, but he won't beat Max. Max is there till 2028. No one's complaining about him. Mercedes is fine with the drivers. No one's complaining. George and Hamilton are a good combination. Ferrari as well. In my opinion, Ferrari and McLaren have the best driver pairings because you have two guys who are the same age with so much potential. Those teams are never going to change anything. Team that should have changed something, in my opinion, is Alfa Romeo, or what is it? They Kick Sauber now, or Steak,
Yes.
whatever. Yeah,
Yes.
you
Stay.
remember their long name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe is only there. He's a paid driver. I think that's the only reason why he's there. He's never. I can't remember a race where I said, "Oh no, wow, Joe, what a brilliant race!"
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a paid driver, so they could have changed him. Bottas, keep him. It's that experience. I'm okay with Bottas. Williams, I don't know how Sargent kept the seat. Like, I don't know how Sargent kept the seat. They could have taken Liam Lawson from Alpha Tower. He did such a superb job. He outscored Yuki in how many races that he raced, or almost outscored Yuki in a fewer races. I think, again, it's that P driver thingy. Sargent and Joe should have left, in my opinion. The other teams, keep the drivers, but I feel there should have been changes. And there's a lot of talent in F2. There's a lot of talent in F2. Unfortunately, like I said, F1 is a money sport, so it all comes down to money, you know. But
Yeah. No.
what
Definitely.
excites me, for next year is, I think, how many drivers? I think 15 or 40 drivers have their contracts ending this year. So
Yeah.
this year's city season will be very interesting.
Yeah. No.
I'll
Definitely.
be yeah, I'll be a bit biased. I'm a Red Bull fan, so I'm hoping Red Bull get Lando next year. Max and Lando in the team. It'll be difficult, but that's my hope. And remember, both Ferraris, the drivers, their contracts are running out as well. So there's that to consider as well. So it's gonna be interesting, the city season for this year. But I agree with you. There should have been those two changes that I mentioned for this year. But anything can happen. They can do a Red Bull and fire driver mid-season. Who knows?
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, Njabulo, thank you so much for joining us today on the Lavesh Pillay Show.
no,
And everyone, thank you for listening. My name is Lavesh Pillay. I am your host, and that is it for today's episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.